Hi, I'm Robert Goldberg, First Amendment TV. We're here again today with the little political scandal going on right now, and I'll let Joe talk about it because that's what he talks about, political corruption in New Jersey. And today's episode is about I
think everybody knows what's going on in New Jersey as well as nationally. We have a pretty major issue going on with the George Washington Bridge was closed down back in September. Actually, believe it or not, it was September 9th on my birthday. The overall bottom line is...
That's how far back this goes, right? September 9th is when this whole thing started.
Yeah, September 9th. And that was the day that the bridge was closed down.
The George Washington Bridge, for people that are not familiar with what's going on in New Jersey, it's a major old historic bridge that crosses the Hudson River from Manhattan into Fort Lee, New Jersey, into New Jersey.
It's yes, and you know, they were saying that there's, you know, in the tens of millions of people that are going in and out through Fort Lee, which is a major artery off of that bridge. The big thing about this issue, which is major, is that as of yesterday, an email came out which incriminated both the assistant chief of staff of the governor, as well as about 2 weeks ago, two of his Port Authority heads resigned from their positions. So we're now learning that it's not because they want to be replaced because there's going to be someone new coming in, that they really were forced to leave.
So as of yesterday, resigned.
As of 2 weeks ago, two of the Port Authority heads, which is Weinstein as well as Barone. By the way, I'm very disturbed after Christie's press conference that Weinstein actually pleaded the Fifth, and he is not going to release any information on BridgeGate, which he's basically one of the people that were involved with this situation with the bridge closing. To make it real simple, there was an email sent by Bridget, who is the chief of staff of Governor Christie. The email stated to Port Authority head, which has already been let go, time to close down the bridge pretty much. Now there was the statement that was made from Port Authority wasn't, okay, explain that. It was ready, got it.
Well,
this is a process that has. This is not the only situation where a Democrat has been shaken down, I believe, because there were 50, 60 endorsements, that this is a process, and this is what I want to go through in the show, and I want to show the background and the spin of what's going on here.
What I want to get back to is when this happened, it happened for a specific reason, why this was done on that date, and let's go from that to this point where we are today, where this whole thing blew up and came out. So basically, someone had a brilliant idea of punishing Fort Lee, the Democratic mayor, because they wouldn't endorse Chris Christie for the governor's office.
Yeah, and I believe, you know, my hypothesis, which I think is accurate, I have a political science degree at the College of New Jersey. I've been involved with politics since a 17-year-old boy, and I'm 44. I've been involved and I've worked with, as an operative, with the governor's people. I know Barone, I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. Okay, I know these people that are involved with this situation. Pretty much, this governor was going to run for president in 2012. The reason he didn't run for governor in 2012 is because Romney became strong, you could say that, or an incumbent wasn't as vulnerable as needed for Christie to be able to win president. I have an inside source, which I'll never release that source, that he was going to run in 2012, but he decided that 2016 would be better, which is why I'm a little bit disturbed by today's press conference that he alludes that there's no interest in running for president. My hypothesis is that the general election, he knew he was going to win by 30%. So why would you go through the process of getting 50 separate mayors to endorse you? Why would you go through all this trouble to... And we're not talking about throughout his 4 years. We're talking about within a couple of months, going after these mayors within a couple months. Going after Latino groups, going after African-American groups. And at the end, my hypothesis, which will be a theory, is that he wanted to show his supremacy with the numbers that came in on election night, not of a 30% victory, but what is the percentage of Democrats that are behind me? What are the percentage?
What's the breakdown of those groups?
Yes, and further, that will enhance and show supremacy, and that will additionally show his viability to be able to beat the Democrat. I don't think there's ever been any thought of the primary. Arrogantly, I don't think that anyone around him thinks that he's going to lose a primary. I think they were more focused during this campaign on when he won the primary to make him strong and firm as a candidate who's bipartisan, who can work with the other side. And they pretty much had a process in which they were working individually with different mayors. And yes, I agree, the governor does get along really well with people that agree with him, or that he's able to come up with some kind of a compromise with. But apparently, Mayor Fulop of Jersey City didn't agree and did not endorse the governor, and just recently, as a couple days ago, released that there was 12 legislative items that are crippling his city, and as well as some other items that are affecting him financially in his town or in his city of Jersey City, because he didn't endorse the governor. This is a known thing.
Jersey City or Fort Lee, you mean?
Jersey City. Oh, okay. This is a separate mayor.
Okay.
In other words, what I'm showing and what I'm going to illustrate is that this is not the only thing. There was meetings, there was strategy that we need to get X amount of mayors, and you get the leaders, and the sheep will follow. And that's what they did. Is they basically went after the leaders to hope that in those areas that they would follow. You look at one of the endorsements by executive of Newark, Mr. Vincenzo, who's now under a major probe for election fraud of spending money that the wrong way with election rules. And Christie, when he first came into politics, he's my hero. This is a guy in 2009, like our last show that we discussed, he took down one of the guys that approached me as a freeholder candidate and tried to bribe me, and I told the guy to get lost. Christie had him arrested.
Well, at that time, he was the New Jersey State Attorney General for the federal government.
Yes.
So that was a case that he was working on, and then it all came through fruition when he was in office already, because they had their investigation going on, and it didn't stop just because he was running for governor, because he stepped down from that position, so someone took over the case.
Exactly. And, so that the audience understands, I am not a candidate for any office. I ran for U.S. Senate. I did extremely well. I'm an actor. I do movie. I do television. I am someone who is an activist who is very concerned that ordinary people like you and me are not being represented. It's all about a game. If anything is learned from this situation, and this is the main topic here, ready? This is the statement. Don't run for more than one office at the same time, because it confuses everybody who's running from your campaign manager to your administration. In other words, this is a cumulative thing. If anybody out there that's an insider tries to deny it, it's a known fact that Christie's going to run for president in 2016 up till today. That's a known fact. And I was an insider. And I do have a source where I was told, Holt, 2012, he's not running. We're doing it in 2016. And Romney's our guy. That's how the game works.
Oh, but a lot can happen between now and 2016. It's 3 years away. And you don't start running for a presidential candidate until or thinking about it until a year and a half before that time anyway.
And it's ingenious of the campaign to do all of these things which I'm demonstrating, which is, going throughout the whole entire country and fundraising for people, okay, governors, senators, which is what someone does when they run for president.
Right, he did when Romney was running and other things.
So of course the media is going to...
he's looking for that support back if he was going to run.
You helped the 2012 candidate and you're in a good shape for the 2016 race.
Right.
That's what that explains. So my point is how do you take care of the state of New Jersey when, you're running all over the country? And that's another lesson to be learned in addition to not running for more than one office is you got to focus on the office that you're in. And we have problems throughout New Jersey. We have Sandy, which there's thousands of friends of mine are starving, they're not eating, they don't have heat or whatever. and their houses aren't being rebuilt. They're in homes that aren't insulated, that they're renting while they're paying mortgages. New Jersey has an economy that's lagging. The unemployment rate, I have 2 businesses that are struggling. In addition, if I wasn't an actor and in movies and TV, my businesses, I would not be able to eat right now. That's the situation. So, you know, the lesson is that when the campaign is doing something that is showing that it's a cumulative preparation for the 2016 race, it's beneficial that everybody's going to continue, including CNN and Fox News, saying that you're running, but then at the same time you're having your cake and eating it too and saying, I'm not running, I'm thinking about being the governor of New Jersey, but everything that you're doing is pretty much the opposite.
Well, they're all saying that because they all are trying to sell their shows by saying, ooh, we have breaking news.
Of course.
And instead of really waiting for the facts, and they're pushing something that's such a long distance time away because they got nothing else to report on the show also.
Well, something that I wanted to point out that I think is really important, and I want to purposely pause and purposely bring it down a level so that the audience understands that I'm about ready to disclose something that no other reporter in that whole entire press conference today brought out, where Christie was going through the fact that he didn't know about this email.
And there's probably good reasons why they don't want to report it.
Well, this is a big deal, is that about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, it doesn't matter when it was, the governor is on record, you can look it up later on YouTube, where I understand that the governor didn't know that these emails came out. And that's why he made fun of the press and said that he was out there, he said, you got to be kidding me. You know, what do you think, I was out there putting the cones out to close the lanes from the bridge? Well, the governor today stated that he completely has no idea about road studies, and he doesn't know anything about roads. That's to be expected. To be governor, you're not going to know everything. The problem I have with it is, at that press conference when he talked about and kidded around about the cones, he made a statement that nobody brought up. He had mentioned that, you know, he had a objective or opinionative, whatever you want to call it, statement that it's sauce. That was the name of his video. That there's 3 lanes going into Fort Lee. He obviously had a statement on that. So there was an opinion, and the machine of propaganda was probably at that point. I don't think at the time he had any idea. I think he probably believed there was a road study. Okay? Let's give the benefit of the doubt. You know, I will not, on this show, say until this is over that he has no knowing. There could be videos that come out. There could be a recording. There could be an email. Today, I'm very concerned that Waldstein, his head guy, who everybody says he knew for life, I'll give the governor another benefit of doubt. I don't believe, if he says that he didn't know this guy, that he just met him once in high school, I believe him. And that there's no direct tie to the guy. But there's a big problem with the fact that, you know, there was a comment made that, you know, Fort Lee didn't need 3 lanes. You know, he did understand that road. The other thing is, like I said before, is that I understand he has 65,000 employees, and it's hard to manage all them because he didn't appoint most of them. A lot of them are civil service. What you need to focus, though, on is that his campaign manager, who is an intimate position, you know, where you're friends with this person, they've been to birthday parties and different things like that. Bridget, his chief of staff, was to birthday parties. When you're away a lot and you're also campaigning for president, you know, maybe that's what this is all about, is that, you know, he lost touch with the main thing. He had mentioned months ago that he could chew gum and walk at the same time. Do you remember that?
That I personally don't remember.
Well, he said he could chew gum and walk at the same time. He acknowledged that, you know, he needs a future, obviously, because he works like everyone else does. But he said he could chew gum and walk at the same time. This isn't chewing gum and walking at the same time. This is basically being, you know, running for president in 2016 requires a lot of laying groundwork. And that's why the media and anybody who has a half a brain knows that they're running for president. And everyone that is involved with his campaign and his staff and everything else, they're all going to be transitioned into if there is a victory in 2016 when he's president, they're all going to benefit from that. So this is a cumulative relationship that they all have. I'm giving an insight that nobody's going to give you. Nobody is going to give you out there this kind of a perception. I'm not saying that in any way, that my mind has changed. I think that Christie absolutely, like myself, is against corruption. But at the same time, you have Vincenzo, who is the head of the, he's basically the executive of Newark. And this guy's under investigation for problems with his campaign finance. And it's very serious, endorsing, and they're in the same places all the time. He has relationships with the, chairman, the boss of the Democratic Party of South Jersey. And the South Jersey chairman is constantly sticking up for him, which is great, but at the same time you got to wonder, there's like separation of powers and there's checks and balances. And if you begin to pick out it's either you're with me or you're against me, then it doesn't become a checks and balances anymore. It becomes, if you are in with me, then this is what you get, and you don't face all the problems. Anyone in this state who is an elected office holder, including Republicans, and I have to be honest with you, I can't disclose who said it, but I know dozens and dozens and dozens of Republicans who have told me during Sandy that they were absolutely upset that, the people weren't getting rebuilt quick enough, that money wasn't coming in.
Well, that's still going on.
They were getting frustrated, and they are afraid to voice it because they're afraid of the governor. And I'll be honest with you, I personally have a lot of respect for the governor. I'm not afraid of the governor, but prior to watching him today, which I feel a little bit more comfortable at this point, that if there was such a machine within his organization, that I'm pretty much okay now. But I'm going to be honest with you, when I was posting last night, I was posting some very hard comments. I was exposing what was going on while no other Republicans were. And, I am afraid. And, people ask me, are you afraid? I'm a human being. I get scared.
If you got to say now, if he was desperate enough to do this is almost like reminiscing, going back to Watergate, what Nixon did to try and get reelected. He was basically trying to hedge his bet for a further election to get certain percentages for those statistics to look for him.
Well,
he knew he was going to win.
There was a famous quote. You heard it. Everyone has. Is that you have to do anything to win. It's all about winning. Remember he said that?
Right.
I didn't say that. He said it. And when you say something like that, anything to win, that sends a message to all of your people. To give a little bit of history about this George Washington Bridge situation.
Well, let me go before talking about where this started, where I'm a little confused. Fort Lee has the George Washington Bridge coming into it because that's where the bridge enters into and exits from. There's 3 lanes going into Fort Lee. I don't remember because I haven't been up in that area in a long time. But some of those 3 lanes lead into the Palisades Parkway, don't they?
I personally have never gone into Fort Lee.
Because there's a tremendous amount of traffic there. So if there's 3 lanes, it was designed a long time ago to handle that traffic flow. That's why there's 3 lanes.
Yeah.
So now it comes down to my question. They just started this whole thing to punish Fort Lee, New Jersey, and the mayor because they didn't participate. So how can we do it? Let's make people mad at the mayor and give him a hard time and shut it down. Now, what I didn't realize that we saw just before,
and there's been a pattern of this. If you don't go with the governor and you're campaigning heavily against him to bring down his numbers with the Democrats so that he could look good to run for president, you're going to have a rough time because you're not going to get the dollars from the state. That's been the pattern here.
Right. Now, the thing was, at the time it happened, I didn't remember it until we were watching the conference on TV. I thought this was just for a couple of hours. And then I thought, oh, maybe for a day.
No, this has been for 4 days.
For 4 days straight, people realized. And now they're saying that this was a traffic study.
Ready for this?
Why do you have to close down 4 lanes for a traffic study?
This is important that people know this as well, is that the email between Bridget, his chief of staff, who went to his birthday party, as well as his Port Authority head, the meetings that the emails that they exchanged back and forth, there was one email where there was a act of concern where they said, you know, the kids are on the buses and they can't get to school. So one of the appointees of Christie said, well, oh well, is it bad that I'm smiling? That's cruel,
right.
Number one. Number two, after he said that, he said, well, they're Buono voters. Those are kids. Those are kids. Think about, do you remember your first day of school?
So this is all politics, really, nothing to do with the
Robert,
citizens or
do you
anything.
remember your first day of school?
No, I'm older than you.
Or, you know, one of the first days of school.
Yeah.
How exciting it was.
Oh yeah, it was walking into something and you don't know what's going to go on, and then you realize you're in a room with your friends that you grew up with, and you just sit there and...
These kids were called Buono voters, the opponent voters. They missed the first day of school like by 2 or 3 hours. They're children. So this is Gestapo type tactics to get somebody to support you. And the fact is that whether the governor knew about this or not, what I find hard to believe, and I don't think anybody believes it, is that for 4 days, a major city was shut down, and a bridge, which is a terror target,
right,
with national security, that the governor, after ambulances and first aiders and police couldn't get over that bridge.
And I was watching an interview with the Jersey City mayor from within the first hour or so that this happened. He was calling people in the state to try and figure out what's going on and in the Port Authority to get some assistance with the traffic problem they had, and he was being ignored.
Yes. And
he was ignored for 4 days.
And the problem is that, which I find, I was on 2 first aid squads. I was on South Toms River, New Jersey, as well as Ortley Beach, New Jersey. I don't know if a lot of people know that. I also was a first aid instructor. I taught all of the Jersey Shore lifeguards. It was a privilege. I didn't get paid. You know, it's $100 each. I could have got paid, but I taught like 1,000 of them. But the point of the matter is I was also on the Manitou Fire Department. I can't even imagine going on a call back in the day when I was on the first aid and losing someone, like basically somebody had a heart attack and they weren't able to get over that bridge. And they weren't able to get over that bridge in time to pick her up. So the actual first aid squad was on their own, and they didn't have the more advanced equipment from the medics, because the medics couldn't get there on time. The woman died. I couldn't imagine being one of the first aiders or one of the first responders now. What do you think they're thinking right now that, wow, that bridge was intentionally closed? That's manslaughter at the very least.
Well, it's the same thing. Just imagine on 9/11, all the different fire companies that came in from New Jersey, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, if they couldn't get onto the roads to get into Manhattan to assist, those roads would close down to regular traffic. But you imagine if all that traffic was really backed up that they couldn't even get across those crossings, what would have happened? I
mean, can you imagine if, by coincidence, there was ever a terrorist attack on that bridge? And that could have been a distraction, that could have been a hindrance for people. There could have been probably 1 million lives taken. I mean, I know that's a far grasp, and that's not what I want to do here. I want to keep real focus on the fact that what happened was 4 months ago for 4 days. And there was letters, there were emails, there were texts. I know that if I was a governor, that if my bridge was closed down and people were reaching out like that, but then give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe he didn't hear about it. And again, I want to say the 2 things that I think in the future that could help the governor is, one, and anybody who's running for office, is one, only run for the position that you're running for. In other words, don't let anyone even get involved with any type of activity. 2 is staying in the state and not spreading yourself out thin, being on governors associations, running every campaign fundraiser for every person running, you know, so that when you run in 2016, everybody owes you. This is not chewing gum and walking at the same time. This is running a huge state, and the state is huge, like a country almost.
Do you remember back at that date in September, was the local media reporting the huge traffic jams on the GW Bridge? I mean, if there's delays, they report it. But were they making stories that this is going on 4 days and they couldn't figure out why?
Absolutely. And you know,
So,
I want to make
the reason
sure.
I'm asking that is because if they were reporting it, how can the governor say he didn't know about it? Come on, you're watching a local.
Let's give the governor the benefit.
Media.
Let's give the governor the benefit of the doubt. He's running the state of New Jersey, so this is one exit out of how many exits are in New Jersey? 180.
Right, but how many have had such massive traffic?
But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But let's move it forward.
Okay.
And this is where the argument starts: is that when Buono ran for governor during the debate, she clearly stated that she accused Christie of being Boardwalk Empire. She accused Christie and his administration of purposely closing down the George Washington Bridge to be vindictive to punish the Fort Lee mayor. This is going back to August, I don't know, what was it, August, September, whatever. This is, no, I'm sorry, October. This is, we're talking months ago. That right there should have set off the alarm that he's smart enough that there's something that was going on there. I know that people told him there was a traffic study, but once you are put in a position like that where somebody's making an allegation like she made, and she did, she called him Boardwalk Empire, this is mismanagement, this is absolute inexcusable, like he said, and I would be ashamed. And he's not a victim. The victims are the people of Fort Lee. The victims are people like me, you know, that are afraid of government now. And we want to be assured that after the election's over, that there's no hard feelings.
And it's not...
Or that for me to put out this video that I'm not going to all of a sudden have, you know, my road blocked off. Or, you know, not that we have to even mention it, but, you know, politically, the governor decides who runs. You know, I ran twice, Congress and Senate. In fact, I brought down one of the biggest crooks in the history of New Jersey, Ritacco, who I'll remind you on the last show that I actually was the only Republican to come out against him, and he was going to be the head of the BO, the Board of Education for New Jersey before Schundler, until they found this out. I was the only one who came out against him, against Ritacco, yet I was not picked to run for office because I will not play these games. And what I'm doing as an actor who's on movie and TVs, I would rather now be someone who's going to educate the public. I went to school for 4 years for political science, but at the same time I was in the laboratory. Since I've been 17 years old, I've been running for office. I'm an asset. And I think I can make the government work better if people are able to focus on what really happens. So getting back to what we were talking about before, once this was on the radar, the next level was the paper started reporting this. Yet it was denied, and it was even laughed at that, oh, what Christie had said, oh, what do you think, I put out the cones, and it was funny, and but at the same time, he said, you know, that the 3 lanes may be too many. He had an opinion on it. He said that it's sauce. And at that point, you know, I wonder, you know, if you kind of don't want to know some things, maybe he didn't know, but my thing is that if you were focused only on New Jersey, that this is a fire that you need to put out. And that this thing began as a little spark. And this thing now is a raging inferno. And it's not going to go out. And today, Wildstein, his guy that, and by the way, in the beginning, when Wildstein and Baroni both resigned, he spun it to make it sound like they were already going to be leaving. And I understand that could be possible. But why even let people know that? Why not just tell people the truth? That they were fired because of what they did. Incompetency, taking down your reputation that you built so well. I in no way, shape, or form think that the governor's job is easy. I think that this governor, when he focuses only on New Jersey, is the best. I think when the governor focuses only on New Jersey and he doesn't need all of these other groups and powers that be, that the governor is unstoppable. But I think that this is a case in point that when you become so greedy that you want to go from one position to another.
For what?
Power.
Power. That's what it's always about with politics, it's power.
This governor was my hero. This governor, I mean...
When he first ran.
My dad, when he died, before he died of brain cancer, used to talk about how he thought someday somebody would actually come out and try to save us. And I thought it was Christie. I did. I saw him arrest these people. I even thought the first time he ran, I really thought the first time he ran.
Oh, he made tremendous headways with coming out with all the, it's not the Ritacco scandal that you were talking about, Widow's arrest just recently happened, but there were a lot of other things that he was coming out with stuff before he even mentioned he was running for office, that he got so popular. He was going after all the corruption in New Jersey at the time, and there was a ton of it.
I thought the first time he ran, I thought that he was undercover. I really did. I thought he was going to take down everybody that tried to bribe him and shake him down. I was delusional. Power gets to everybody. And, you know, like I said before, is that as the governor of New Jersey, he loves New Jersey. There's no doubt about it. And he loved being governor. And he was like, if anybody remembers Obama when he first came on the plane, back in when he first became president, and when he walked onto the plane, he looked at the captain, and they were at awe and humbled. And Obama was just so like a little kid coming on the plane. You could see in the beginning, even with Obama, before he was reelected, that he was so excited just to be there. They lose that. You know, Christie was like a kid in a candy shop. He was so happy when he first won governor. That's all it was about.
Well, they're put on a pedestal, and people make them better than they actually are sometimes.
I think that Christie was kind of jolted into this presidential run, and that, you know, he did a lot of things that were right. You know, his genuinity, you know, with Sandy was not a photo op. The President of the United States came, and he basically had to look the president in the eye, but at the same time, he was really afraid. A lot of his friends here, I'm in Ocean County, and I know thousands of people that Christie's friends with. They lost their homes. What is he going to tell the President of the United States, don't come? He did the right thing, but something happened, you know, like once he started to run for president, some of the decisions that were made that maybe they weren't even made by him. Maybe that this pattern that I'm arguing, that in 2012, when he decided not to run because it wasn't possible to win, that against an incumbent who it looked like Obama would win, let Romney do it, but do all the campaigns, but go through the motions with the campaign, and then turn around and do all the right things, campaign for all the right people, so that, and show the right demographics with the Democrats, get all the mayors to endorse you so that the sheep follow, get the Latinos behind you. Don't worry about the primary because you're already going to get through it. I think something happened in between that the focus started to be lost.
Well, I think from what we see, what's happening with the Obama administration is the same here. There are people that are working underneath them that are talking to them about other plans and other doing things, and they lose their focus because someone's saying, this is what we need to do.
Of course.
It's for what we're working on and doing.
Remember, Obama was in the first 40...
They lose their ideology where they really wanted to do things, and it just got out of control.
It's called re-election. And if this governor was focused on his re-election, his team, he had 30% of the vote. He didn't need to shake... His administration didn't need to shake down mayors and to run a campaign like
That's
this.
where the real scandal comes. He was so overwhelmingly going to win. Why did he do this, except for what you're saying that they wanted the statistics if he runs for 2016?
I have all the evidence I need. Ready? I'm going to role play.
Okay.
I am the chief of staff. This is what I'm typing on an email. This is exactly what she said. Time to start traffic and close down the lanes over in Fort Lee, however she said it. It was clear.
She made that statement, though, but they didn't know about what she was talking about. There must have been previous emails planning that.
Well,
because that's what we know about. Where are the rest of the emails leading up to that point?
That could be possible.
It's not, I'm talking to you, Joe. Hey, Joe, let's give the mayor a little hard time. Just close down traffic. This was planned.
I got a better one for you. I love that theory, but our hypothesis. But this hypothesis, I'm thinking, when she typed very simply, on the screen, and it said, "Time to close down the bridge lanes for Fort Lee." The only response.
Those were those exact words,
The only
correct?
response from Port Authority. Got it.
So they knew this. So it's just showing you between that email that she sent out and her reply back, this was planned in advance because they knew about it. It's not like you just came up with a discussion, because I would come back, what are you talking about?
Or, ready, not doing that, and that is absolutely, abuse of power, or whatever.
But there's emails way before that situation when she gave that email out as an order, shut it down, because people had to know what she was talking about.
Another concern besides today, Wildstein saying that he is pleading the fifth, which is he could have incriminated Christie and anyone else that is involved, and that could be why he pleaded the fifth. Another thing that's got me really, really bothered is that during this whole entire thing, that it seems that, there's a lot of inconsistencies. And the big thing that I just lost my train of thought, which is back, is that some of those emails were redacted. There was like a cross out on them, and whatever redacted
that they showed on the media.
There's nothing there. There's just blank space. And another thing is Bridget, who is the chief of staff of Christie, who went to his birthday party, so they do know each other. This isn't just somebody who they don't know. She erased her Twitter account. She erased her Twitter account within hours. Another thing that kind of disturbed me is that if you see the pattern of Christie, who has never been known to do anything other than face it head on, always face it. He was due yesterday at 11 o'clock in Manahawk in New Jersey for one of the most important press conferences that he was going to have in probably his lifetime about this Sandy, to go over the accomplishments, but at the same time to comfort people that are devastated. They're dying over there. Some people they're paying for their mortgage, but they're living in another place, and they're paying 2 mortgages, and they're filing bankruptcy. These people, they're losing their homes. He basically no-showed this. If I was him,
he no-showed it. He knew about this. He had to handle this scandal. But why did these people
just show up?
Had to wait this long to even get help? Well, they've been screaming for help, and where is the state?
If he wasn't running for president at the same time, and he was just going to retire after being governor, he probably, common sense, would have said, I'm going to go to that meeting, and I'm going to make it through it. And I'm going to tell the truth to people that I don't know what's going on. The only thing I can tell you is that, like he always did, I didn't do this. And I'm innocent. And I didn't do these emails. He's not perfect. His administration's not perfect. But somebody died.
Right.
Children were late for school.
And
there are people in this state right now that are afraid of him, that think he's a bully because of his administration, and the Fort Lee mayor called him an idiot. But I'll be honest with you, up until this point I've never been vocal about this, but I have a problem. He called a veteran an idiot. He calls reporters stupid. He called a guy numbnuts.
Christie.
Yes. We can't have somebody being disrespectful to other people. There's, in a bad relationship, 2 people dating, if they call each other numbnuts and different things like that, that's not good. You don't talk to your wife like that. You don't talk to your husband like that. You don't talk to your kids like that. You don't call people stupid. You don't call people idiots. And if your administration sees that that's the way you're acting, that's the way they're going to act. And, I've been to some of the events where, in Ocean County, I am a golden boy here. I have helped everybody get elected around here. I'm friends with all higher powers. Even though I didn't have the support of the main party, I had so much support by most of the party in my county. And they never try to stomp me down. They support what I do. I've been in a few rooms where Christie was at, and I went to go walk in to say hello to him, where I was actually put like this with their hand, and they rudely said, you don't have something on you, you're not allowed in this room. After I told them who I was, and after somebody verified it, then I was able to go back in. And I'll be honest with you, I elected Christie in this county when he was running against Lonigan, where he needed to win this county in that primary. And since he won governor, I have never been invited to any of his events. I've never been invited to his Christmas parties. I've watched all the people that, you know, showed up maybe once or twice, whereas I was there every day. There's no animosity towards him here at all. It's just saying that I feel that, you know, I've continued to be anti-corruption like he was, and I keep that focus. I just feel like I've been pushed out of anybody who even associates with him. I am now pretty much, I've been unfriended on Facebook by half of his staff. Nobody will even talk to me from his staff. And I've never done anything other than voice my opinions and try to, you know, give the governor a perspective of how to keep whole of who he is. He loves New Jersey. He's not a corrupt man. He's not a vicious person in his normal fray of mind. But when you start mixing two campaigns together, when it becomes more about I need to be president, but I have to win governor at the same time, nobody's Superman, and of course you're going to have mistakes like this that are going to occur. My biggest fear is that something comes out in an email that there was something known about this by even more people, including himself.
Now that's,
I would be devastated.
Now that's the whole part of this investigation now, is they want to see emails and computers. So, because like you didn't know when I was talking to you before, most people don't realize, you can delete an email, you can delete programs, photos out of your computer. There are recovery software programs that I use because I had some pre-recorded episodes of certain people, and by accident they got deleted, so I was trying to recover them. The problem I didn't know is that when I did maintenance on my computer as a defragmentation, what you're doing is taking out all those empty spaces and condensing your drive. So what it's doing is those deleted files now are being written over with.
Which is gonna occur.
Right. So when you do a defragmentation on your computer, those files are written over with. They can't be found. If they didn't do a defragmentation on their computers and their source, when they use this recovery software, they will be able to pull up those emails and everything like that. So just because you hit the delete button, people don't realize, you think it's gone. It's not.
Well, a big thing, you know, not.
And that's what they're going to do now with their investigation. They're going to subpoena their
what,
servers or their email accounts, and they're going to pull it out and get it. So it's going to get to the point now, what did he know? Was he in any contact in any of these emails? The only thing that'll save him is if he was not linked to any of those emails and those conversations at all, and it was just between the staff members that decided to do this, then he's fine and well and cleared. But they did it, and we know they did it because they're the main part of this investigation right now. They want to see if it leads up to him.
Well, that's a good thing that we're not getting towards the end right now, but I want to talk about the investigation and what my suggestions are. One, he was a U.S. Attorney General. So the U.S. Attorney General's office, he has a lot of friends. That could be one entity. The Attorney General's office in New Jersey, he appoints all them. That could be another one. But they might not...
Right, but that was replaced now by the Obama administration. They might... Democratic.
But he was also... See, I'm trying to keep focus on this one, is that he was in the U.S. Attorney General's office and he runs the Attorney General's office in New Jersey. Those are two... They could be biased. So you want to add the feds. There's a feds committee with the transportation which should be involved with this. There should also be a bipartisan board, and I believe maybe even assisted by the FBI, because the FBI is pretty much, you're going to have all these different entities, and if they all come across one channel of disseminating the information objectively, there's not going to be any cover-ups. There's not going to be any favors done. You got to understand something, that, you know, this is a issue that is now mainstream, and people want to get to the bottom of this. And we now have a situation where Wildstein, who at first Christie said, well, he was leaving anyway, this is 2 weeks ago, instead of just saying he's fired for incompetency, he's now basically resigned. But he's now pleading the fifth today on national television, It doesn't look good.
Now, when he pleads the fifth, everyone's saying, well, he must be guilty of something if he's pleading it. But then again, if he really is innocent, he doesn't need to misstate something and incriminate himself in something that he was really never a part of. So,
you can give him the bet. Well,
you know, it's really up to him to prove him guilty.
He is guilty because there's emails with him stating to close the bridge down, or he said got it, and also making fun of these kids that were stuck in the bus. They called They called the mayor, Serbian guy or something like that. Made fun of his ethnicity. They called him a idiot or whatever. It isn't cool. And the bottom line is...
They were acting like a bunch of kids, really.
Well,
being a bully.
Let me be honest with you. As an insider to politics, these are operatives. These are people that have, unfortunately, Baroni and Wildstein, part of their job for the first 4 years was not only doing the job that they got appointed to because they elected the governor, but they all got together in the end and got him reelected. That's the problem, is that the governor, like every other office, appoints his friends and people that helped him.
Right.
And it becomes I want to stay in and we want to keep our jobs thing. And it gets carried away sometimes like it did here. It's a travesty. As an American, to see the ugliness of politics. This is corrupt. Corruption at its highest. This is, at the very least, this is abuse of power. This is obstruction of justice. And possibly even, and I'm second-degree murder now, more like manslaughter. You could easily prove manslaughter. And what if there was an explosion on that bridge, God forbid? Or what if a truck was going over that bridge and with gasoline, a gas truck, and crashed because of this stupid, dilapidated closing of the lanes?
Right, it's not a little traffic jam due to an accident. This was deliberate for 4 days. This was closed down.
And the worst part about it is to see the emails and to have one of the appointees by the governor say, you know, is it bad that I'm smiling that the kids are stuck on the bus? And the other person is saying, no, because they're Bono supporters. These are kids that are teenagers or 10 years old or 8 years old. They don't even vote. They don't even understand this. And their first dose, see, for me, when I was 17 and I ran as the youngest ever in this state, I was naive and I didn't understand politics and the way it works. These poor kids have been exposed to something that they don't need to have their innocence taken away this young. And how does a parent explain the reason why you were late for your class the first day is because your governor's people, you know, did it on purpose because our mayor... How do you explain that to a kid?
No, you don't. And the other thing...
Politics at its ugliest.
Is even if they were doing work on a bridge, they would never close down that many lanes like that because of the huge traffic volume on the bridge to begin with. So you got to keep the traffic moving and flow so it doesn't become a hazard. So repair crews would never shut down the bridge the way they did to punish this mayor.
I would agree with that.
So it was really just not closing it down to be a little spiteful. It was a massive close down to really piss people off and show them what I can do.
And, you know, you look
what I can do to you or else.
I think I made it really clear that the governor is responsible for this because if he was focused on New Jersey and he wasn't running for president in action, and I illustrated in this video the proof that he was running for president. Everybody knows he's been fundraising all around the country. The polls are coming out. And at the same time, it's great to say I'm not doing it, but, you know, deny it, but then the action serves its purpose. In 2012, when he decided not to run, and he decided that he was going to run in 2016, his operatives decided he was going to run. A lot of times when you're, you know, a candidate or even an office holder, you have an organization and it's an underground. It's an underground of operatives, and there's always 4 years from now, 3 years from now, and it's in full motion. So this is a mix between focusing on spreading yourself out too thin, chewing gum and walking at the same time. This is running for governor, running for president.
He could have been chewing gum and walking, but he could have been walking in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe he blew a few bubbles, but they burst. And you know, you have to start to say, you know, am I in over my head? And did I lose control? And I believe the governor that he's not perfect, and that, you know, maybe he needs to reevaluate and maybe say that I'm happy where I'm at in New Jersey, and we need him here. You know, and I'm frustrated with politicians because, you know me, I was going to run for Senate and I was only going to serve one term. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing on earth, is to get elected one term and to be able to do so. You know what you could do in one term?
Yes, but like I said to you in the past, and I didn't say on
We're
here,
focused on running for one thing, like governor twice, instead of running for president and governor.
What you were looking to do was run for one term, and I felt, because we have situations like what we're talking about now, when we really get a good person in office really doing the right thing, I want them staying there now. I don't want them disappearing, because if the person to follow you is not exactly like you, and they're not getting your endorsement because you know they're just like you, then we're going back to what we have now.
Well, and case in point is, you know, not only do you have that situation where he overextended himself, but you also have a clear and obvious pattern where it was being demonstrated through numbers, not only to win by 30%, which he was a shoo-in, but to have Democrats endorsing him. That he himself even said on television today that, you know, he asked people for their endorsements. But he also had other people out there that were doing this as well. And they got carried away. And they were shaking people down. And like I said, Jersey City mayor, I believe him. The Jersey City mayor is the second mayor other than the Fort Lee mayor who stayed, ready? He stayed loyal to Buono, who was Christie's opponent. Follop of Jersey City stayed loyal to Buono, and next thing he knows, after the election's over with, all this pending legislation, and the guy just won mayor, so he needs his town to run. Now his town is being almost shut down, like the lanes, through legislation.
So this is not stopping just on a road.
It's not only road closing, it's funding, grants, loans.
So where people think, oh, it's just the highway was closed down, this is where they're making it extremely hard, and it's for the residents there that are paying their local taxes into the state, trying to get money back for their township. Yes. And they're being totally ignored now because we're going to punish you a little more now.
I mean, listen, I don't want to go too deep, but I'm going to bring out an argument. You have the Senate President Sweeney, who is very close with Christie. And Sweeney doesn't get along with Follop. They're having the Jersey City mayor. Well, if you look at when Sweeney ran and he won majority of the Senate in the regular New Jersey Senate, not U.S. Senate, because there's a lot of New Jersey senators. When he won, Keene, who is the ex-governor's son, who's a senator, he was basically almost overthrown of his minority leader post. And it's a coincidence that Christie and Majority Leader Sweeney, Democrat, are friends. And at the same time, Sweeney's having a problem, ready, with the Follop mayor, and so was Christie because he didn't endorse him. So now you have an allegiance and an alliance between two Democrats. And that's where it gets even worse, is that you don't have one side. I mean, you had Buono, who, I want to expose this. This is a political issue. And this was brought out during a governor campaign, and this is why maybe people didn't take it serious. Christie knew that this issue was brought out in October during the debates. Christie knew that this issue was brought out months ago when the media was basically accusing him of being Boardwalk Empire and all these accusations that were being made. He had plenty of time.
So he should have gone right then and there if he wasn't knowledgeable of what was going on.
If you're running for president...
Once he found out about it, he should have terminated those positions.
But if you're running for president at the same time, there's factors that, maybe this is below me, maybe that this isn't important enough right now, and maybe, ready? I don't think that the press would ever even call me out on this. It'll never make it to the mainstream. See, Christie didn't, this is important that everybody understands this, is that Christie would not have done anything like today and came out or had a press conference or acknowledged it. In fact, he was making fun of this 2 weeks ago, saying that, you know, what do you think, I put the cones out there? And he was even saying that 3 lanes are too many. I don't think that he would have came out with this if the mainstream, who would affect his presidential race, didn't bring this to the height of, ready? O.J. Simpson. This case, this situation is more hype than when O.J. was going down the street in his white
Bronco.
Bronco. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so the lesson to be learned is focus on New Jersey. And if you're not running for president, and he's even made statements, which I think is a little bit annoying to me, that, you know, oh, we should let Obama be president till 2016, this and that. But why everything that he's doing reminisces that he's running for president? Why, you know, all the mayors, why do you have to have such an over 30%? The pattern's there. I don't have to argue this. If you ask anybody on the inside who has enough guts to come out public, they're all going to say, in 2012, he decided that, or his people, decided there's no way that they could beat Obama, and that they would let Romney go down. Basically, in 2016, and the worst part about it is I was an insider then, I was trusted. So this is not inaccurate information. I have an inside source, and that person was buddy-buddy with the governor, and they told me flat out in 2012 that he was not going to run because Obama wasn't beatable, and that in 2016 he would be unbeatable. And that's what the machine has been doing. And that's what you're seeing as a machine. And the machine broke. It got exposed.
Now, what you were just saying before with Fort Lee, or who was at Jersey City, is tied to this in a way, what's going on, because they're not getting funding from the state legislature. So this is just another part of what was going on now.
I think there's going to be,
Bridge,
you're
but
right.
There's going to be more of an investigation going on.
Yes.
Because now they're punishing them on other things. It wasn't just the bridge.
It's just another...
It's preventing them from getting funding that was owed to them.
It's like, you know, when you punish a dog.
It's like asking your father for an allowance. Yeah, I'll give it to you. Oh, I keep forgetting.
Now, I would say it would be more or less...
You literally had to beg for your money to get your
I would say it
city
would be
to run.
more or less your father wanting you to clean the house, and when you don't, he doesn't feed you or give you a drink. That's not allowance.
Right.
I'm talking about the necessities. And it's like Pavlov's dogs. In other words, I personally want to be blunt saying this, that I don't believe that the governor ever really meant for people to be afraid of him. He really could be a teddy bear. In fact, the first time I ever met him was at his inauguration, well, not his inauguration, but his when he first won governor. And I was invited to Newark. He and I are both from Newark. I was born in Clara Moss Hospital. And I walked over, and he was really popular, and I'd never met him before. As I went to go shake his hand, he bear hugged me, and I said, Joe, and he said, Rullo, I know who you are. He's a very nice guy, and I don't think that, you know, I think he's been very stressed out, and I think he's been overextended, and I think that he's a human being and he makes mistakes. And I think that he's lost a lot of the people around him that initially were really, truly loved him. And, you know, I'm talking about the people that elected him initially. In other words, you change everybody, you know? And I know some people that, you know, really were tight with him, and they're not there anymore. And they're people that I believe that he would have known back in September when this happened, he would have found this out. You know, I don't have like I said, I've been shut off to him, period. Everybody who I used to speak to is either not there anymore or they unfriended me on Facebook.
Now the whole thing remains to see where else is this going to blow up following this, like you said, with
discuss that.
The financial ends
do you want
of
to see
what's going on.
Do you know what my prediction is? What the Democrats are going to do is this is a spiraling death roll they're trying to do. They're going to
Which both parties would do it if it was the other party anyway. So
we would do it.
We're not going to say, oh, the Democrats are doing it.
If this was the Democrats, they would be doing it.
It would be the other way around also.
Yeah.
So
they're going to focus.
That's what we're trying to point out.
They're going to focus on simply the different punishments that there are if you did not cooperate with the process of endorsements. In other words, the campaign decided that we need to get every major player that's a mayor and different levels so that the sheep would follow. And that was their strategy. What they're going to do is they found now that there was a bridge closing, right? They're now finding out there's legislation that's been taken off the table. There's going to be a lot of other things. Think about what the government does. It does everything. It does everything. So what else has been withheld? This is, see, people say, you know, why would they do this? I'm showing you why. It's because they needed to win, in particular, the Democrats in the city areas, or else at the end, if Christie just won with the Republicans, they would argue that he can't beat whoever the nominee, Hillary, for example, if she runs for president, that he can't beat Hillary without Democratic votes. He had organizations, Latino organizations, he had African-American organizations, and he showed a decent amount of support with those organizations where he can argue that demographically he could do better than Romney, and he learned from Romney's mistakes. And let's call this out. And
if you don't learn from other people's mistakes, you're doomed to make them.
But again, if he's not running for president, then why would you be going in your campaign, trying to, on the night that you run for governor, why is everybody illustrating in your campaign, these are the victories, and every victory that he had, battles, we'll call them. You know, he won the Democrats, his high support with them, Latinos, African Americans. Why? Because
they were marketing already for the.
They were marketing already, and that's why Romney lost. And he tried to exploit why Romney lost, and to show that he is not Romney and that he is not your average guy. And at the same time, you know, and I want to be honest, there's never been any worry by anybody around him, the GOP establishment, that he would not be the winner of the primary. That was never even, that he hasn't even been posturing for the primary. If you look at some of the legislation that he recently did with, for example, allowing illegal immigrants to be able to go to college at the state price, not at a state price, that was, a lot of conservatives were against that. Or, for example, he is ready.
See, I have a problem with that, but I have a bigger problem with that issue, which we could discuss another days.
Yeah.
They're illegal. Why are they allowing them to go to school
There's
at all?
other issues, like you said, for example, the way he focused on election night. And another problem is, which nobody discussed this, and I now ask, I would love to even know from the governor why he, on election night, when he won about a couple months ago, and he had a small little party, there was only maybe 20 people there. Of course, I wasn't invited or anybody else that I knew, but one of the Madoff people, I think, involved with one of the scandals, big investor, was very depressed, got let out with some kind of a deal, and he didn't go to jail. He was at home depressed, and that same day he got let off. Christie invited him. I mean, why would you even want to associate with somebody like that? And when the media reported this, locally, the national media doesn't pick it up. And I think that's an example that, even with this issue, that he became complacent. He took for granted that the media is a pet snake, and they bite. That's another suggestion I have, is that if you're going to run for president, you now know that, we discussed this on the last show, that this isn't your little, you know, rhino groups of papers that will write whatever you want, and then that is what is released, and then the other medias pick up what your other organization that you use in the media uses. This isn't going to happen. you have national news attention now. And my suggestion would be, with this situation, is that, you know, no more delays. Talk about it like you said you're going to do. If you have a meeting, don't cancel it if something else comes up, because people don't all believe you, Governor. And a lot of people are scared. And I personally have said a lot of great things about you today. And I am not going to go out on a limb, though, Robert, and say that I don't think that the governor said for his staff to do this, but I want to make sure before I incriminate myself, because I have a reputation of flawless with corruption, that I'm just an honest man. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, 2-3 weeks ago, that there could have been some kind of a inkling that this was going on, and that you didn't act in time. And it is what it is.
What we're definitely going to do is find out that this topic is not over with, like your first episode.
No, it's not.
This is going to lead into more, and it's just a matter of waiting for these investigations to happen and this information to come out now.
Today, like I said, they have the hearings. We have the plea to the Fifth of Weinstein.
Right. And what's the FBI going to go in and grab computers and search them, or servers?
There's enough information at the FBI.
There's links there, and it's just a matter of getting them and then following the time trail of all these emails, which are going to be their own self-incrimination.
You got it. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in again. I think this was a great show, but I want to make sure that people understand that this is a no-spin room. And I pretty much let you know from the inside that, you know, there is a presidential campaign. This is a national issue. This is not a state issue. And that this is a very common thing to try to get, you know, media to see your strengths.
In all parties, not just Republican or
Democrat.
All parties.
And this type of vindictive behavior is with both parties, but not this ugly. And unfortunately, it's been exposed. But on our next show, we'll discuss even more.
And I'd like to let people know you can follow this on YouTube, and the links in the description. If you want to make a comment there, you can. This is also going to be rebroadcasted on First Amendment TV in our video section. And that's what First Amendment TV is all about, providing content that no one else is really talking about. Unfortunately, we have to make it a paid-per-view site because there is no advertising. And I can see just decimating a good debate like we just had now. We're trying to break every 5 minutes for a commercial.
And for $5 a month for 2 months,
right,
it's not going to break
The first 2
anybody.
months that we're alive now is $10, and then it'll be $10 a month, or it is cheaper. And you can go to first1stamendment.tv. We're starting up the Twitter page, so if you want to join us and get notifications on what we're talking about, join us on Twitter, and that's number one, small st, capital A, small TV on Twitter.
And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you.